So with part 5 around the corner, I believe that I should be doing some DIU videos before I massively dedicate a lot of our time to our newest animated part. I mean, like, whoa, it's not like I've been doing DIU videos. One of the many things I see fans love are these types of videos where I give all my thoughts on the characters at hand, so I think I'm going to be doing that here with the Morioh Warriors. Josuke and Jotaro won't be here because they're in my Joestar video, and if I'm missing someone, most likely I don't have much to say on them, or I have something remotely planned or remotely soon planned for them. So, on to our first ally, Koichi. Koichi is a cool character, and personally, he's my little indicator that DIU is not a fully protagonist-based anime. It's odd to say that. I'm saying this because all of JoJo doesn't fully just focus on the protagonist at hand, except for Battle Tendency, but there's percentages to how much we see of the protagonist, if anything. DIU gave so much to Koichi and Kira, in specific, in my opinion, and I love it all for the better. Koichi's development throughout the part is probably the most evident for people, but there's a lot more to that development than the face value approach everyone gives it. I think the easiest thing to refer to is Medi's video on Koichi, the beauty of Koichi Hirose, and it's like, I think I'll put up a card right here for it. For what I love, or what I think about when I think about the character Koichi, it's his wrath and echoes. Each time I see Koichi move on into a new act, I love seeing the raw emotion that we get from it. Echoes Act 3 is probably my all-time favorite moment for Koichi, including when he was trying to finally destroy Kira, but then he just proceeds to get smacked up immediately. It was it was a great time. Also, since I won't be able to connect this over, there isn't going to be a little excerpt here on the whole trinity of the Morioh Warriors in this video, so I think I'm just going to be talking about that dynamic here. Josuke, Koichi, and Okuyasu is a group that I would be fine with if they had some sort of OVA type deal going on with Morioh in the original slice of life way that they were going about. Like, just having little talks here and there, checking up on each other and backing each other up for everything. It's so fun to see that all, because you don't really get to see that much going on for JoJo characters until we get into the more modern day parts. I think the best showing of all of this is when they were in the Yukiko arc, and they were actually all pretty involved with each other. Like, you would see a lot of everyone in there. And I know that a lot of people aren't really with the neutral area of DIU, but to be honest with you, I kind of rest easy with all of that. And I could go for more of it too if it doesn't mess with the main plot. I think of that area of DIU, it's more of one of those Saturday anime, but not in Saturday in the sense of DBZ Saturday, but more of just like a relaxing anime episode you could casually just have in the background, or even just casually watching it. It was a really good time for it, and honestly, I would love to see more of it, but we probably can't. Now there's Okuyasu. I think for those that already subbed, they know my interest with the character. I think the easiest thing that I've shown for my interest was my character study on him. I want to say that I want to talk about what doesn't relate to his brother in terms of character traits, but a lot of his character is due to his huge connection with Keicho. Though I will say that I love who he became after finally following his own direction and letting Keicho rest. We also see his first sign of him utilizing the stand with how he completely disabled Kira. It's just like, I'm not so sure exactly how normal Okuyasu would have approached it, but I don't think he would have gone so brash now because of it. It would have been so cool to see him do more of it a bit after DIU, but kind of not going to get that. I just wish that we actually had DIU adapted into a series of manga that completely runs different than our regular one does. Like, for example, the Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe series. If it was something like that, where it's just the Trinity, it'd be pretty cool. Then there's Yukiko, and the obvious thing here would to be go about how insane her love is for Koichi. And I really do want to talk about her in a different light, but I can't really make much up of what I've seen. Obviously, something to go about is how threatening she is and how there is always something that people love. But aside from that, there isn't exactly that much, in my opinion. She's such a very strong girl, and I actually believe that I'd love to see better positions for her story. And it would be nice to see her own fights against enemy stand users or something like that, but obviously it's not going to be happening. But a good thing about this, though, is that Araki knows when to elaborate on characters. No spoilers here, but maybe this doesn't happen in a place like DIU. Maybe it's a lot different. It's a different area and time. Completely unrelated topic. I have a lot to say on JoJoian characters. Not completely unrelated. Does not connect over here. I'm just saying. Now on Rohan, with my reasonably large amount of involvement in art nowadays, my love for Rohan grew a lot bigger than when I had first seen him, or even when I had first covered in my character analysis. And even then, it was still pretty big. The strides taken and the lengths he goes to push for his motives is amazing for me. Also, with his life already happening and having an endgame to it all, it makes a lot of sense that we do have this whole Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe series and all these other one-shots. There's so much to work with for his character, and it's more so around changing up the environment while still retaining the Rohan that we still have. And it does well with elaborating on characters that we normally wouldn't. His one-shots were one that I had when finishing up in DIU, and when I found out about him, I just got even more involved in his character than before. He's such a lively character, and while a lot of his emotions aren't exactly nice depending on who he's talking to, I still love him for it. His most notable thing for me must be his ambition and passion for when he talks about his art or being right. I think that's more of a common thing in general with me though, so I'm probably more biased than the average person. The feeling of seeing someone talk about what they're most passionate about is probably one of the best things ever for me. The raw emotion that you see from it, I'm not exactly sure on the wording for it because it doesn't even have to be talking about positive things of the specific thing it is. It could be talking about the bad areas of what they like, and it all sounds positive to me. There's also when Rohan was explaining his motives to Koichi and Hazmada, Rohan against Highway Star, Rohan against the Butler Kid, and those spoke Rohan Kishibe, and the most recent one, the Millionaire's Village. And I think I can mention more, but if you don't read up on the other ones, it really wouldn't make any sense. So I'll just keep that off for now. Or when I'm doing a video recommending it all, that would be pretty cool. I also need to talk to Viz or someone or something just about serializing everything and all the parts and all that. Because, man, people really want to buy manga. Though that's probably enough for Rohan if you do want to hear me more talk about his character and all that type of stuff. There's a character analysis on him, and honestly, it's one of my more favorite videos. Not because of the content, but because it's Rohan. I had a choice of which characters I wanted to mention here, so the next one is actually going to be Shigechi. One common thing I see with people talking about Shigechi is how much they don't like him. I understand that seeing Shigechi be selfish is messed up for those watching it from Josuke's and Okuyasu's perspective, but you have to think about this. Their first couple of thoughts on Shigechi was about how they could use him and get his stand harvest to get financial benefits, in quotes, to say more than necessary. Though I will say that Shigechi's wrath is definitely a bit over the top when going against them, so I can't reason on why that's fine, obviously, because it isn't. Though I will say why it happens is most likely off the fact that Shigechi is an extremely lonely kid, and most likely one that probably got bullied before, or in a sense, some type of abuse. There's a reason on why our first instance of seeing him, he's sitting alone with Harvest instead of inside of a school or something like that with people. He's by himself and with only his stand. Personally, I think that's what Araki was truly going for when making Shigechi, making him one of those bully types while also making him an extremely prominent stand user doesn't look too out of the ordinary. Especially when Yukiko was made to show that even with what she believes in being more circulated around love and all that, she couldn't be one to undermine. For what happened to Shigechi, I honestly thought it was a sad moment. The fight for life in defense for his own family and putting that together with his reliance on the only person or only people that he sees as close friend or friends is truly sad. Then it was all ended with one of the hardest predictions of the show. That was like a 5-mile galaxy brain play with Kira. It's ridiculous. And the last character is going to be Tonio. Out of all of the characters, I picked Tonio. Yeah, there's something going on here. Off the weight of his character and Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe, again bringing that up. With Pearl Gem, my general understanding of the stand is that you'll need the required ingredients to be able to treat specific ailments. You can't just cure stuff with run-of-the-mill ingredients. That being said, I want to describe what happens in episode 6, but at that point I'd just be spoiling, so you might as well just read it. He's a very determined and loving person, and there's a lot more to his character than we see in part 4. Medi also has a video on Tonio. This is just back-to-back shoutouts. The arc itself isn't enough to fully go about his character, so I highly suggest episode 6 of Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe along with the whole line itself. Though I do think that will be enough for me, because aside from that, all I can say is that he's a pretty funny guy. Gets mad when I don't know. Tonio getting mad is so goofy to me, but that's probably it for me altogether. Thank you all for watching. The biggest takeaway from this is probably just get involved in anything Rohan related. It's way better than what you're assuming. I understand how people are just like, oh my god, all these Rohan OVAs make me mad. I was like, me, not really, no. Me, I'm pretty happy about Rohan OVAs. Though what I loved about making this video is not having much to say about the characters I've already covered on the channel. It seems contradictory. Usually as a content creator, they're like, whoa, Caleb, wouldn't you want to talk more? Doesn't that get you they'd be like, yo, Caleb, that gets you the big bucks or something like that. I'm just like, no, not really. I'm kind of more happy that I don't have much to say on characters, because the characters at this time, it's like, oh, I've already covered them in previous videos, so it gets that energy out. If I don't get what I want to say about a character out, you'll see me talk a lot about them more in these types of videos, hence why some of these videos are usually longer. It's because I'm like, oh, I never get to talk about these characters, finally, and then I go ahead and do so. Then refer to my Phantom Troop videos too. Those are pretty big. Probably expect more Hunter stuff along with my Part 5 videos. So hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Until then, peace out and Godspeed.